Thank you very much. The leadership here present from both DPSA and Department of Environmental Affairs. I'm also told, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that there are mayors here, and I was asking, looking for the faces of mayors that I know. Are there some here? They're on the way. And representatives, the way is too long. The representatives of the, I know that we're all busy, especially now. Representative of mayors and executive members from the mayoral committees, the leadership from national, provincial, and local government, the leadership from and members of the public entities who are here, I'm told you are here, our very good people from the academia, of course you are here as well, leading the pack, Prof. Civil society members and industry representatives, members of media, and all of you distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you. It's still morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Professor Lensberg said that we must try again. Good morning to you. Good morning. That sounds better. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed with great honor for me to be part of this sector National E-Waste Conference. And I must say that Mark has helped me a great deal because he has almost said all the points that I'm going to be raising. Be that as it may, we do know most that it is important sometimes to repeat certain things so that they can sink in discussions like this one, because I'm sure we also are still not at the same level of understanding these issues. Those who are knowledgeable, like all of you who are seated here, would have to engage with these issues even after the three speakers would have spoken this morning. Now, over the next few days, you'll be looking at new ways, and I'm saying new ways, to address the challenge posed by the safe reduction, I'm emphasizing safe reduction, reuse, and recycling of electronic waste. And I'm sure that any of you here, ladies and gentlemen, who have children, I take it, and I guess many of you have children, especially teenagers, will agree with me that the evolution of technology is taking place at such rapid pace that it can actually be at times very hard to keep up with, especially those of us who are BBTs, born before technology, just to keep up. I met somebody from the University of Technology of Pretoria. What is it called? TUT. I met last week, very strange person, a BBT from TUT. Really, we could hardly take a picture on a cell phone. So there are those who are like us, and these things actually evolve very, very fast. Now, no sooner do we become accustomed to the use of one form of technology than another, and then really you see just another is introduced to replace that one, not even to change this and that, sometimes an actual total replacement. Now, this evolution cuts across society as ordinary homes, businesses, governments, and countries seek to harness the power of this quiet revolution. It is indeed quiet revolution. Now, as society develops and technology innovation continues apace, we've had to very seriously reflect on how to manage the waste that's generated from these technologies. And I'm proud to say that the sector has also shown time and again that it is up to the task of its own technological innovation. I once shared with Mark a story of somebody who knocked at my door a few years ago. I think it was about 5 years ago. Knocked at home at residence. think that person is here today. I'll tell you it is. I think I can see him. Naturally a him, not a her. Knocked at my door and said, I'm coming to speak to you about e-waste. My God. Back then, what do I do? I was still in the environment, but also had another portfolio of water affairs. I'm just saying that to illustrate how most of us in the industry and even ordinary people have been thinking about this and have been working and really showing that you are up to the task. What I'm here today to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to reaffirm government's commitment to working with you in the sector in ensuring that together we meet the challenges. We have repeatedly affirmed, as I do here today, again, ladies and gentlemen, that we see the waste sector in general and the e-waste sector in particular as a catalyst for socio-economic development. Yes, it's waste, but we see it as a catalyst for socio-economic development. It is a source of new businesses and jobs, as well as an important contributor to all of us attaining, or majority of us attaining our goals, in particular as South Africa, as a cleaner, greener country, a greener South Africa. And as the sector continues to play its part, so do we, as government, need to be upfront and at the forefront in terms of ensuring that we play our part as well. And I must acknowledge the partnership that we have with the Department of Public Service and Administration on this initiative. Thank you very much, Mr. Moti, and thank you to the leadership, Minister of DPSA and Deputy Minister Dodro in absentia. Please, let's give them this message that we do say we appreciate this initiative in ensuring that we cooperate and thus far and look forward to a coordinated approach in dealing with e-waste in our government. It's not just looking inward as government, but also within the society in general. Now, working together with our partners in the waste sector, we are indeed moving South Africa forward, we'd like to believe, because as we would like to see things happening, is that probably some 3-5 years from now, we should all be saying that, yes, indeed, we've made it. Today is better than yesterday and yesteryear. So we are moving forward indeed. E-waste is not unique to South Africa. It is a global phenomenon, and indeed a global problem. It is imported and exported around the world for different purposes. Sometimes for recycling, sometimes disguised as near-end of life second-hand goods, or even donations. And this is the reason why we've got to be, just as we innovating, as we thinking about recycling mechanisms and how to coordinate and cooperate in ensuring that we truly make this a socio-economic activity that must benefit our people. So we must actually educate those who may still not be aware that there are different intentions and objectives of getting waste or electronics out here in our country, as well as in other developing countries. I was almost one of the victims one of these days. Fortunately, it was quite a long time ago when I was still in the province and not dealing with the environment. I was at the University of Philadelphia, Wharton School of Business, actually. Professor, still doing some economic leadership course there. And one professor approached me and said, my God, there are so many computers, you don't have them in South Africa. So many computers that we can really just get out of here and they are here in one of the storerooms. I didn't even think about why a computer in the storeroom should be given to us at the time. I said, my God, and indeed we don't have them. I come from such a poor province. Instinctively, I thought I should actually talk to the called Minister Trevor Manuel at the time. He was there. He says, no, Sissy, you don't do that. But why does this minister deny me the right to get my computers to my people? I couldn't understand at the time. So it's important that we really talk to our people, because there are different disguises out there for second-hand goods and donations. Now, the United Nations Environment Program is called UNEP, for example, forecasts that obsolete computers, both in China and South Africa, will rise by 500% in 2020, compared to their 2007 levels. What makes developing countries such as ours unique in this regard, though, is that we aren't only faced with the challenge to managing our domestically generated e-waste. We also have to deal with e-waste from other developing countries. And Marcus has spoken about some of the very dangerous chemicals that are in some of the equipments there. We also know, may I say this, that especially in the African continent, many of our brothers and sisters still do not know how to deal with some of these very dangerous and hazardous waste. We have to work together with them, we have to help them. I do remember that just recently we had to and release a shipment of waste to come and destroy it here in our country because they didn't have capacity there. And the good thing is that we've got to talk and actually get those who are dealing with hazardous waste to also indicate if they are ready and so forth. So it carries quite a lot of other things with it, which we really need to be aware of. And the rapid growth in information technology and telecommunications in developing countries, ladies and gentlemen, has led to an improvement in the capacity of computers, but simultaneously to a decrease in the lifetime of products. And the net effect of this increase in electronic connectivity and capacity has been growing stockpiles of obsolete e-waste and the dangerous disposal thereof. Now, statistics shows, for instance, that developed countries will increase their export of e-waste to China and South Africa by about 50 to 80%. We as a government, and indeed the industries, NGOs, all of us who are gathered here, ladies and gentlemen, know that when compared to conventional municipal waste, certain components of electronic product contain toxic substances, as we've already indicated. Mark said so. They're also illustrated earlier on. And these are particularly bad for the environment, as well as for human health. And this is exacerbated by low levels of consumer awareness, as well as unregulated disposal, collection, and recycling waste processes, amongst others. It's for that reason that we have put those mechanisms in place that Mark was talking about, in ensuring that their systems were institutionalized, were able to move forward in a very coordinated manner. We as government, ladies and gentlemen, have heeded the warning sounded by the E-Waste Association of South Africa in 2008, and they said the following, I quote, "Africa is becoming a dumping ground for America and Europe under the guise of donations. And if we do not manage e-waste, our e-waste, South Africa could find itself and its people in high-risk health and environmental crisis," close quote. And that's what this association said. We take these words very seriously. Furthermore, there's increasing evidence to suggest that companies from the developed countries are taking advantage of the absence of or even lax enforcement of environmental laws in some of these developing countries to dump e-waste, leaving trail of environmental destruction. It is therefore imperative, ladies and gentlemen, that collectively we together, who are in here and engaging with all those who are not in this meeting, we must find a way and find ways and means of ensuring that we do minimize the impact of e-waste on the environment and on our people. We have already been told by the association, Unlike many other developing countries, this government is led by the African National Congress, and I'm mentioning this because these laws that are now in place only came on board in 1994, coming through this progressive legislative regime. And that then translated in ensuring that in our constitution, there is access to right to environment. As you know, it exists in section 24 of our constitution with the 3 subsections. Don't read up to one or end up at the second one. Read up to the end, because the last section, which is C, talks about sustainable utilization of our natural resources. What's e-waste comes from that which is a natural resource we mined somewhere or so, because anything that we have in the country, in the world, if it is not mined, it's born or it's planted. They come from those, it's all of natural resources. Now, such laws, ladies and gentlemen, are in the form of National Environment Management Acts. Gordon has already indicated. Those arise from the policy concept up to the law. We also now have the National Environment Management, Waste Management Act. In our space, even when you speak, we talk about NEMA, NEMWA, NEMLA, NEM something, all of them are NEM something. So we now have the NEMWA, which regulates waste management in the country in order to protect health and environment by providing reasonable measures for the prevention of pollution and ecological degradation. Now, this act came into effect on the 1st of July 2009 and has been amended through the National Environment Waste Management Act 2014 last year. We did other amendments, which amendments were assented to by the President on the 2nd of June in 2014. Now, it is important to note, ladies and gentlemen, that the Waste Act provides for measures to deal with both general and hazardous waste, and we treat e-waste as hazardous waste in line with the precautionary principle. You know, the precautionary principle in our policy. And importantly, ladies and gentlemen, Part 7 of this Act provides for the development of industry waste management plans, where the waste generated poses a threat to environment and requires intervention through collective effort. Therefore, that industry waste plan is going to be put in place. And the purpose of these plans is to facilitate a principle of extended producer responsibility, where producers take responsibility for the waste generated from their products post-consumer phase. And I'm glad that, as I said, I want to emphasize that industry has really been coming up front with actions and with innovation, with very many mechanisms as to how we can deal with this. I do remember that at the level of World Economic Forum, I was once panelist dealing with this matter. We were dealing with what we call that thing, the reduction of waste, what is it called? But anyway, they were discussing producer responsibility and ensuring that they take back that which they've been able to produce and really recycle or do something about it. Now, I'm still on the plans. The plan will ensure, ladies and gentlemen, that amount of waste generated is firstly minimized, and waste minimization through this process will ensure that there's reduction, and therefore there's reuse and recycling, and recovery is realized. We talk about the 4 R's, it used to be the 3 R's, now the 4 R's in every industry plan. Now, the disposal of waste must be the last option. In other words, our landfill site must not be thought about when we get into discussions of this nature and dealing with this matter. In this country, ladies and gentlemen, currently we still have large volumes of e-waste that is disposed in the landfill sites. I don't know if in your packages you have a thing like this one. You do. It doesn't look good. Where is it? It doesn't look good. This is how our landfill sites sometimes look like. Sometimes it's not even in Waitsfield site. We just dump anywhere and everywhere. So we've got to deal with those things. And in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, on the 24th of July 2015, we published a draft notice for comment in terms of Section 28 of the Act to call on industry that generate the 3 priorities waste streams for them to develop and submit a plan by consideration and approval. Now, the notice is currently at public participation stage, and the centers that I've called for to submit are in the following areas. It's in paper and packaging, in lighting, and e-waste. And I hope that many of you are going to be playing a part in that regard. These plans are expected to align with the National Pricing Strategy for Waste Management that's contemplated in the Waste Management Act of 2014 as we amended it, because we provided for pricing, so that we no longer as a country have to see waste as just but waste, but there must be a price to waste. We think that will help us to encourage people to do something about waste. Now, important to note is that government institutions collectively generate a significant amount of waste. So even before I talk about this, let me just say that we already have experience in how, as we work through the waste plans, which we are envisaging to do through this the notice and the calling for plans, we can be able to realize better results. We have already started with the waste tire. It's already up there. I'm very excited about it. When we started, there were many teething problems. So we must expect to have teething problems even in these other waste the plans, but we must be able to work through those challenges and get to solutions as quick as possible. Obviously, utilizing the experience that we have. The information that I have is that we have been able to create a number of jobs through waste tire. We've been able today to create quite a number of small, medium, and micro enterprises. At least something is beginning to happen. We now have to move into a real recycling and reuse of that where it really matters the most. So yes, we have experience as government departments that are collectively generating the significant amount of waste. We've got to do something about that. And that challenge in government includes the fact that national government departments and provincial departments, our municipalities and state-owned enterprises actually still do work in silos. Every department is managing the waste in a silo manner. There is a need for coordination of efforts in order to ensure that we have maximum impact. Ladies and gentlemen, e-waste management presents an opportunity for job creation. I cannot overemphasize this. I have no ways to do that, but ways to say this. But it also is a socio-economic development, and we can actually do better in improving the lives of our people in this country through these programs. Now, most of the components of e-waste are recyclable, fortunately. We therefore need to put systems in place and infrastructure for collection, transportation, sorting, and recycling of this e-waste. You can imagine in this whole waste stream in that you have transporters, you have collectors, you have sorters, you have those who are recycling. How many other small jobs will we be able to realize, and indeed at the same time have a greener South Africa? Now, as a department, In as much as we engage with the electronics and information technology sectors to develop plans to address e-waste, government itself has not addressed what to do with its own accumulated stockpile of IT waste scattered across the country. I'm sure you can tell that in some corners where you come from, especially those of us who are in government departments that are buildings not like the one that we have as dear. In almost we have a green building, a 6-star building. So those buildings that still have little corners, let's all retrofit them please and make them better. Those with little corners, we find a way of getting around the corner and dumping them, leaving them there. So there is that challenge we need to get to deal with this challenge, ladies and gentlemen. And as more e-waste is placed in landfill site, exposures to environmental toxins are likely to increase, resulting in elevated risk of cancer and developmental and neurological disorders. Whilst this may be seen, ladies and gentlemen, as to be a huge challenge, there are simultaneous huge economic benefits, as we've already said, for the citizens of this country. There are opportunities for jobs, and there's an opportunity to deal with the triple challenges that we face, one of them being poverty, underdevelopment, and unemployment, as well as entrepreneurial opportunities from a well-planned, strategically resourced, well-regulated, managed and controlled e-waste system. So we're really looking also to develop a well-planned system, because we don't want to be all over, and I don't think it will help us to be all over. Maybe yes, we may want to be, but it won't help us to be all over. We need to function within this system. Now, at the Waste Summit that we held in White River early this year, I mentioned a need for accelerated waste management interventions, literally declaring war on waste. Mark is not joking when he says that, frankly speaking, I'm in a hurry. I mean, we have to rush before many people are exposed to this hazardous waste. But we also have to rush to get jobs for people to really have a greener South Africa. And that still has to happen in my lifetime. I hope, because I'm still 16, and it'll still be within my lifetime. We have to declare war on waste, ladies and gentlemen. The country needs to come up with technologies as well to deal with this waste, but also to minimize on the economic spin-offs that are entrenched in our waste. Listen, I'm saying the country needs to come up with innovations as well, technologies. Yes, we should look at getting technologies from elsewhere, but why not from South Africa? We should look at our own innovation as well. We have the CSIRs, there goes another opportunity. Your innovators, let's look at that from South Africa, so that when we get what is called, what we talk about on international forum, there's words that I don't quite like, it's called technology transfer. So we don't talk technology transfer all the time. I don't know, transferring to who, why transfer forever? When we quite innovate back home. Yes, we've got to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, today we have called all of you to come and converse with all of us who come from government industry on the challenges and opportunities in e-waste management. And I'm pleased to see that you came in your numbers and you were seated very orderly even before we arrived here. Apologies for arriving slightly late, but you really look determined. And I'm pleased that these numbers that are here will actually demonstrate support for this initiative, and it shows a level of interest that exists in this area. I trust that you provide meaningful inputs towards the development of national priorities and targets for e-waste management, because there again, it'll be not quite be helpful actually if we just say we work and work. We've got to have targets of how far do we want to go, by when, and so forth. So I'll be glad if this meeting comes out and works towards those targets as well, so that we can measure what we are doing. We've learned, some of us of late, that If you can't count it, it hasn't happened. And it's not going to happen. So that's why some of us do not like words like magnums. Where it's written ongoing, in progress, in process, please let's expunge those words from our documents. We must write 50, 55 as a target, and we are now at 69 or something, not ongoing, because you can't measure ongoing. So let us continue to develop those targets. And the Department of Environmental Affairs, ladies and gentlemen, has commenced the process of consultation, research, and community and industry engagement to develop an accurate understanding of the conditions that exist and to compare these with experiences of both our developed and developing nations, partners, so as to formulate a baseline assessment of the nature and extent of the e-waste challenge in South Africa. Again, that must not take too long. Professor has just offered here the students that are available there. Please, let's be there, all of us, to finalize this matter. And whilst the department believes that e-waste is a cross-sectoral concern, we actually remain committed to leading the development of an effective and efficient e-waste management system in South Africa. We can lead from the front, we can lead from the back, but we will be there amongst those who are dealing with this matter at all times. And DEA, together with DPSA, has therefore commissioned a research study culminating in a consultative conference which we are having here today. Firstly, starting with municipalities, and to seek solutions that will contribute towards an effective and efficient e-waste strategy in South Africa. The first survey of the management of e-waste municipality and the consultative platform is a first national engagement on a very problematic waste stream which we are dealing with. And it is envisaged, therefore, that this conference will set the benchmark for this very significant milestone in the history of e-waste management in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that e-waste will have a devastating impact on the environment and human health for centuries to come if the legislative and regulatory framework of e-waste management is not enforced. So enforcement also has to happen. It necessitates that we come up with new innovative means, therefore, to address this challenge. For instance, to date, global, regional, and national regulatory responses are focused on banning transboundary shipments, which Mark was talking about earlier on. In many respects, these responses have been weakly enforced, let's admit, and have been largely ineffective, and in both the sending and the receiving countries. Alternative solutions to examine should include recycling technology issues and increased manufacturer responsibility. Industry, the sector, and government must therefore work in concert to make up with these innovative methods and solutions, to come up with those as well. Now, waste management is key to the promoting of this country's economic growth and socio-economic development for the benefit of our environment, for the sake of the health of our people in South Africa. As I conclude, let me say, really very hard from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for honoring and participating in this one-day conference, and I wish you very fruitful engagement in the breakaway sessions, and most importantly, I look forward to your recommendations as experts in this field, because I do think that all of us who are here are experts. We have people from academia, we've done research and so forth, people have been in the field, those who actually may come up with some level of expertise, even from a community point of view. So let's not look down at ourselves. Each and every one of us is extremely important in this dialogue that we're having here today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.